So tonight we have a service call on a walk-in cooler. It's Saturday night, about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The complaint is that it was in the 50s. When I arrived, it's about 43 right now. So I'm going to put an air probe in here, get the box temp, and then we're going to jump up on the roof and check everything out, see what we can find. What we have here is an old Heatcraft Space Miser coil. This guy's probably from, I'm guessing, 93-ish. So we'll check it out and see what we find. Check out this badass spider web. Lucky I didn't walk into it. Anyways, I gotta get back to work, but this is our condensing unit right here. It's an older Masterbuilt unit. It's gonna be R22 refrigerant. Condenser doesn't look too bad, a little bit dirty, but nothing crazy. Okay, so the unit's running. Got a bunch of oil all over this suction line, but I'm running a clear sight glass. But this unit does have a headmaster, so it could still be short on gas. Could have the winter charge be short. The time clock does not have the right time on it. It's late at night, not 8 in the morning. So I marked it with a marker, and we're gonna let it run for a few minutes, and we're gonna start our stopwatch and see if it holds time. I'm gonna go ahead and apply some service gauges to this unit. So this one is a head scratcher because my refrigerant pressures are on point. I've got a clear sight glass. My time clock seems to be holding the correct time. The pressure control is cutting in and out where it's supposed to be. The box is coming down to temperature. I haven't seen it satisfy yet. I've ensured that my receiver is filled up 3/4 of the way when it's pumped down. So that means I've got the maximum amount of refrigerant that I can put in this system. So I know that even though it had oil all over that suction line, it's just a tiny, tiny leak. It's not enough to make the system short on gas. So it might even be just spray from people taking their gauges off, I don't know. So the whole point of me checking the receiver level, again, we're getting into the cooler weathers at nighttime season. So my headmaster is gonna bypass. Currently right now, I'm running about 190 head pressure, PSI. And I believe that headmaster will bypass at about 180 PSI. So as it gets cooler tonight, that headmaster is more than likely gonna bypass. And we have to make sure that we've got enough refrigerant, we call it the winter charge, in the system to properly flood the condenser and keep a clear sight glass going down to the TXV. And if you don't, you can starve your evaporator and cause problems. Anyways, it would be short on gas essentially. But that's not the case right now. So the compressor's pumping, my suction pressure's where it's supposed to be, my head pressure's where it's supposed to be. I'm just gonna wait and watch the box come down to temperature and satisfy and watch it turn off and turn on. I'm kind of wondering if maybe someone had shut off a circuit breaker and didn't tell the manager and then turned it back on. Because when I got here, the box was like at 42-ish. And right now it's at 36 degrees. And I've been here for about 45 minutes. I mean, it's been steadily coming down in temp since I got here. And I didn't do anything. So I'm just gonna watch the box satisfy, hopefully, as long as it doesn't take too long. And watch it a little bit longer, but I'm not seeing anything at this moment. So this guy's running great. The defrost clock seems to be holding time, but I just have a gut feeling that's what's wrong. When I arrived, the defrost clock had just come out of a defrost about an hour and a half to 2 hours prior to me arriving. And that's when they were complaining about the unit being high in temp. It's a little bit difficult because they regularly shut off a circuit breaker for the condensing unit when they do product deliveries. So you can't really gauge whether or not the clock has the right time, you know, based on where it should be. So the time could be regularly off on that clock, I'm essentially saying, because they shut that breaker off 2 times a week for, you know, 2 hours a day. And that's normal. I instructed them to do that because of this particular location. We run into problems with them freezing up the coil because they used to never shut it off and then prop the door open and, you know, reorganize the walk-in when they get their big deliveries. So with that being said, I really have a gut feeling that the defrost clock is the problem on this bad boy. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace the clock out of precaution. And we're gonna watch the unit. I think the box is at 37 degrees right now. And it should be satisfying any moment now. So I'm just gonna watch it satisfy, change out that clock, and then go from there. So I got the new clock installed. I put 4 defrosts. I didn't change it, that's how it was before, but we do 4 defrosts a day for 20 minutes each. And it's just an air defrost, so all that this clock's going to do is break power to the solenoid valve, pump the system down, then leave the evaporator fan motors running, because mind you, this is a walk-in cooler. But other than that, that's it. I did check this compressor contactor also to make sure I didn't have any voltage drop across it. Everything's looking fine. The contacts don't look too bad. That's what I'm saying, man. Some of this old equipment, you really got to appreciate it, because the compressor's been replaced on this. The pressure control's been replaced. That's an original contactor, the original breaker, headmaster. It's got the original TXV and temp control downstairs. And this is all from, I'm guessing 92-ish, I think is about right. I have changed this valve right here, and I'll tell you a little story about that. If you look at that valve, it's actually installed backwards. I got all done doing the job. This was 10, 15 years ago. I remember doing that, but I got all done doing the job, and I realized that I installed the valve backwards. Now it still works just fine, but when you front seat this valve into here, it basically is supposed to be facing the other way, so that way you can read the pressure on the compressor side. So you can do a pump down test on the compressor. The way that I installed this, when you pump it down or when you front seat this valve, this pressure is from this side now. It's supposed to be installed the other way, with the valve sticking up and the rotolock going towards the compressor. So it's still functional. You can still see suction pressure. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just, I prefer it to be the other way, because then you can do a pump down test on the compressor, checking the suction valve. So the box is still at about 37 degrees. I checked the thermostat. It seems to be turning on and off where it's supposed to be. The evaporator coil concerns me though, because it is dirty inside. And I also noticed that my my TD across my coil, that is the suction saturation temperature difference from the box temperature, is about 15 degrees-ish, somewhere in there, which is a little bit on the high side. I'd like to see it closer to 10. But we need to clean up that evaporator first. So I'm not going to do that tonight. The box is working. I'm on overtime right now. So I'm going to go ahead and return, and we'll do an evaporator coil cleaning, and then we'll set the superheat on that expansion valve, and then go from there.
Okay, so at this point, we went ahead and returned, and we cleaned the evaporator, and the evaporator was deteriorating very much inside the coil. I actually wasn't the one to go back and clean it, so that's why I don't have video of it. But just like we thought, this equipment was really starting to deteriorate. The coil was rotting away, and we, talked to the customer about it. This is one of the customers I work on all the time, and they're very proactive on replacing their equipment. So they decided to go ahead and upgrade all the equipment, put a new evaporator and condenser in. So we didn't really have any more problems after we cleaned it, but they just wanted to go ahead and get ahead of the game, because this was an old R22 system, and it was from 93. So they just wanted to be safe. So we got the approval and went back out and replaced all the equipment.
All right, we're going to be doing an equipment change out today. This is my walk-in cooler that I was having some problems with. Old equipment, time to replace. So we're going out with a Masterbuilt. It's a nice old unit, lasted forever. We're going to go in with a Heatcraft unit, so see what we can get on film. Masterbuilt condensing unit here. We're going to pump it down at the king valve on the outlet of the receiver. This is an older one that actually, not older, but you don't see it a lot these days on the smaller equipment. This one has a queen valve on the inlet of the receiver and a king valve on the outlet. So there is a difference. The queen valve is coming out of the condenser on the inlet of the receiver, and then the king valve is on the outlet of the receiver. So the king valve is the one that we're going to use to pump this guy down. Once I get it down in my trailer, I'll recover it at my shop. We're just gonna, that way I don't gotta drag my recovery equipment up here. Here's the old coil. We're gonna be pulling this out right now. All right, this is scary. Look at this. There's no wood up there. That's a 2.5-inch lag screw just going into the sheet metal. It's just foam in there. That's all that was holding this coil up. Okay, we've got the new evaporator coil up. We're still finishing up a few things. I gotta button up that insulation. We're currently vacuuming the system down right now. This is a new Heatcraft unit with the quick response controller. So it's a little difficult to get in here because it's tucked way back in here. See, it's in the cool mode right now. It's got an electronic expansion valve. So we're getting there. Alright, so this is our new condensed unit. It's a 404A Heatcraft unit. We just have the quick response controller on the unit downstairs. There's no communication upstairs. So, nothing fancy. We just like to keep it tight, simple, and clean. Charged it up. Went ahead and charged to the maximum unit charge, which is 14 pounds per Heatcraft's recommendation for this. Because this is a microchannel coil, they recommend that you just fill it up to the max amount that they publish for this unit, and that's 14 pounds. So that's pretty much it. Unit's operating fine. We'll go downstairs and check the temps, but it's going to take a little while. We got the box temp up to about 45, 46 degrees while we were changing the coil. So everything went good so far. Coil looks good.
Okay, so just to do a little recap, we had service call on a walk-in cooler that wasn't working right. Pretty confident that the problem was the defrost clock. Went ahead and replaced the defrost clock. But then when we returned to clean the evaporator coil, we saw how damaged and deteriorated it was. So the customer went ahead and gave the approval to replace the equipment. So we put in some new equipment. The customer supplies their own equipment in this situation. So they spec'd out the Heatcraft QRC equipped evaporator coil and then the Heatcraft condensing unit. They just supplied it to us and then we went ahead and installed it. Other than that, you know, it was pretty much a straightforward install, nothing fancy. We were working with existing equipment. The one thing I will point out in reviewing the video, I noticed something that you guys probably are going to catch is that there's no suction line P-trap on the inverted section of the suction line. And there actually is. This is an exposed walk-in cooler, so it's outside of the building. So the riser is actually inside of the building. So I did confirm that there is a suction P-trap on it. It's just located in the kitchen area. So basically, there's a very small little cover over the top of the walk-in cooler. There's about 6 inches of space out there. And the suction line comes up from the inside of the walk-in cooler, goes over and then 90s into the building. And then once it 90s up to the roof, that's where the suction line P-trap is at for oil return reasons. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Nothing fancy. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Check out some of these other channels. And thanks again, and I will see you guys on the next one, okay?